This is Kilo, and many of you guys have been asking about the residential commercial Lishi picks. Some of you have watched my videos where I've used them to pick and decode different locks, and some of you have asked if they're actually worth it. As a locksmith, should you pick them up? Are they practical? Do they actually have valid, reasons to be in your kit on your van or in your shop? And some of you have said you don't see any real world reason why these would even be worth picking up. And some of you have asked for input, if I feel like I could give you guys any valid reasons to pick these up. So it's really up to you, but in my opinion, I feel that they are worth it, which is why I bought them. So just as a heads up, if you guys are on the fence or thinking about picking up Lishi picks, I would recommend, if you guys live in the States at least, I don't know how it is in different countries, but here in the States, a lot of these companies have a lot of holiday sales. So if you guys are thinking about picking up a set or picking up key machines or anything, always I would recommend wait on a big investment until around a holiday weekend where I picked this up around Thanksgiving, and when I did, I got $200 off of this whole kit right here. So you can save yourselves a lot of money by, waiting until a holiday week or a holiday weekend and seeing, the price drop on things. So just as a heads up to anybody thinking about making a big investment on lock tools. So with that said, I will give you guys 4 reasons why I think they are worth it. So number 1, smart locks. Gen 1 and Gen 2 smart locks can be decoded with the KW1 version of the Lishi. If you guys haven't already checked out my video where I show you how this works, I'll leave a link right here. And you guys don't have to worry about picking those or bypassing them. You can go ahead and just use your Lishi, decode it, make a key, open the door, and then you can go ahead and just, without having to take apart any of the locks, you can go ahead and rekey it if they want you to do that. If they lose their key or whatever the reason, you can just go ahead and rekey it for them or leave them with the key and let them do it themselves. It's up to you and it's up to them. So that is one reason why I think at least the KW1 is worth it. Another reason would be lost key situations. So in one instance where a couple called me, they got back from a river, they went on a river trip, the husband jumped in or he got tossed in as a joke or something happened, and he said when he got out he realized that when they tossed him in, he had his keys in his pocket and it destroyed his phone and he lost his keys somewhere in the river. So it was out of state. They came back, they called me, and they said that they called a few other locksmiths before me, and all of them said that they would have to rekey the whole house. They weren't going to just make him a new key. Some shops just flat out refuse to go ahead and make you a key simply because they find it tedious. So having a Lishi tool in that situation, when I showed up, I was able to pick it, decode it, make him a key and a bunch of spares, and they were cool with it. You always want to let them know in the possibility that someone does have their key, they could break in, but they were 100% on losing it in the river. They weren't concerned at all. And they also said that they really didn't have the funds after their trip to rekey their whole home. So in those situations, they come in handy. In our third situation, broken keys. Sometimes people break their key. A lot of times it's in the deadbolt. And one common reason for broken keys is when your strike plate is not aligned on your deadbolt. So basically we'll pretend this is the deadbolt and this is the strike. You want it to go straight down the dead center. A lot of times the strike is off center. So your bolt is hitting, one end or the other of the strike. And what happens is, when you hit that wall, a lot of people just crank over and put a lot of force to turn their key, and it forces that deadbolt, and then to unlock it, it drags across that strike. So over time, you're actually weakening the blade of your key. So if you do have that situation on your home, definitely adjust your strike. So in some cases, people come home, they go to unlock their deadbolt, and as they get it unlocked, their key snaps. And in some situations where it's 10 o'clock at night or so, they will say, you know what, I got it open, I'm not going to pay a crazy service fee for after hours, I'll call the locksmith in the morning. They'll misplace a lot of times that broken piece of the key, or they'll toss it. They just kind of sometimes expect the locksmith to be a wizard and know how to just make a key on the spot. So if they do have both pieces, you can just take your key gauge and go ahead and decode it and factory cut them a key. If all you have is a duplicator, you could put the pieces together, but if the key blank is twisted, it's going to be weird. So I would definitely always use a key gauge, decode it, and if you only have a duplicator, I would use space and depth keys to go ahead and just originate them a new key. But let's say that they're missing the other half of that key. It could be 1 or 2 cuts. If it's 2 cuts, it could be really hard to do unless you want to impression those or take apart the lock, and it could just be a tedious process. And a lot of lock shops won't do it. They'll tell you no, either rekey it or that's it. So with a Lishi, you can go ahead and you can extract their broken key, go ahead and just pick the lock, and then all of a sudden you can go ahead and just make them a new key and say, here you go. It just saves a lot of time. So for broken key situations, lost key situations, Lishis are pretty cool. For the fourth and final reason that I can think of that I have used Lishis is on certain locks, especially on some lever handles, you have to pick over the lock or have a key in order to take them apart. So a lot of times it's really awkward to pick lever handles just in general because the key weighs sideways, and a lot of times you're picking those, they're in commercial settings, like say on a restroom door in a gas station or a mall, and while you're sitting there picking, you have a bunch of people just walking at your back, you have people watching you. If you're not confident as a picker, it can put pressure on you and anxiety. And then you have kids pointing at you and asking you questions, or people talking to you. Sometimes when I'm picking locks, people are like, oh, how do I get into being the locksmith? And it can just be a really weird, awkward situation. So having a Lishi tool, you could just walk up, go ahead and pick it, and then pick it over, disassemble it, and you can go ahead and rekey it. Sometimes you might come across a bunch of lever handles that are all keyed alike, and they all have to be picked over in order to disassemble them. So in those cases, you can use the Lishi to pick it over, decode it, make a key, and hopefully you get lucky and they all are keyed alike, and you can just go ahead and knock it out with the same key. If not, at least you have a way to go ahead and always pick them really quickly, as it can be a really awkward and monotonous and tedious process in picking a whole handful of these locks. So those are my 4 reasons why I think these are worth it. Those of you who asked if you guys are on the fence about picking them up, those are my reasons for picking up the residential commercial versions of these Lishi picks. For the padlocks, I don't use those. I've actually never had to use those in the field. I use them for videos, and that's really the only time I've used them. So maybe someday I'll use them if somebody calls. I just never get calls about them. The master will probably be the one that I end up using first, as master locks are just super common, and if somebody loses their key and they have a whole bunch that are keyed alike, I could just go ahead and make them a new key and they'd be fine with it. So I just haven't come across that. So hopefully you guys find this video helpful. Hopefully this answers any questions you guys had. If you guys are new to the channel and you like this video, feel free to subscribe if you'd like to learn more about locksmithing and lock picking. As always, I hope you guys are staying safe. Good luck on your jobs and have a nice day.